I remember some years ago in a taxi, and I said something, and apparently the gentleman recognized my voice. So he said, "You are Petreece Cuffie?" I said, "Yes." He said, "You saved my marriage." And of course, it's really, this is why I do what I do, to, to help people. And I really thanked him for sharing that. He didn't have to. And so really, really, again, grateful for New Year, grateful to be doing this, to be still doing this, really grateful, and most grateful that it is impacting the lives of individuals, couples, families, marriages. Really, really thankful about that. So again, good afternoon, good morning, good night, good evening. And I am looking at 10 things you should know about self-awareness. And this is part two. So in part one, I would have addressed what is self-awareness. That's one. Two types of self-awareness. Three, five elements or components of self-awareness. Four, the benefits of self-awareness. And five, what actions, behaviors indicate a lack of self-awareness. So if you missed that, you can find it online. So today I am addressing what childhood experiences may cause a person or persons to lack self-awareness. That's number 6. Number 7, warning signs that you need to improve your self-awareness. Number 8, how to increase your self-awareness. And remember, as I said, I don't think anybody's 100% self-aware. Number 9, how to help your children grow in self-awareness. And number 10, the fact that this is an ongoing process. So number 6, what childhood experiences may cause a person or persons to lack self-awareness. So the first one, and this won't be all experiences, but these are the major ones. So where there has been childhood emotional neglect. So this occurs when parents fail to respond sufficiently to a child's emotional needs. So we have to remember, as parents, we act as mirrors, telling children how they should behave in different situations. So when parents fail to know feelings, it leaves the child unable to see themselves clearly. So they struggle with self-knowledge, because feelings help us to understand ourselves. Feelings help us to know when there's something that needs to be addressed. Feelings help us to know what we like and what we don't like, what energizes us, what drains us. Feelings are so important when it comes to self-awareness. So a lot of times when parents don't acknowledge, don't validate, don't notice a child's emotional state or validate those feelings, children can feel, like feelings are not important. They can even feel ashamed a lot and don't know why, and feel ashamed of having feelings or having certain feelings, which of course will cause you to shut down. And also a feeling of something is wrong with me. So this is very important where there's emotional neglect. So even when we're looking at how to help children grow in self-awareness, we could right away understand how important it is for parents to acknowledge children's feelings and let them know that feelings are neither right nor wrong. Another childhood experience that could cause a lack of self-awareness is, again, linked to number 1 there, the invalidation of emotions. Being regularly told to toughen up, stop being so sensitive, something really wrong with you, how you crying for everything, boys don't cry, these things. Being regularly told these things teaches children to suppress or disconnect from their feelings and their internal state. So not just your feelings, but what is going on inside of me. So you totally disconnect from this. So you're not aware. Because we have to remember, if I am not aware of what is going on inside of me, how then do I manage my emotions in a healthy way? How do I know that I'm being triggered and therefore I need to take certain actions? So when we don't validate the emotions of our children, so we grow up in those kinds of state, it can cause a lack of self-awareness. Also, where there's narcissistic parenting, and this is where children are raised by parents or caregivers with a lot of narcissistic traits. And when I say narcissistic traits, I'm talking about parents who feel and who feelings and needs are always most important. So what the parent feels, what the parent needs is always the most important thing, where you also view children as an extension of yourself, but just for validation or that ego supply. So the child makes me look good. So they went to a particular secondary school or they've accomplished this, and it's all about how the child looks because that makes me as a parent look good. Right? Where a parent, where there's, and it's a number of these things. There's not one of these things. So when we're talking about traits, not trait as in one. So where there is the parent always front and center of what they need and what they want when they see their children as an extension of themselves for validation or ego supply, when there's a lack of empathy. So the parent only knows how he or she feels, or the caregiver, but doesn't tune in at all to how the child or the children is feeling, where there is manipulation, like you're guilt tripping, the child, or using a lot of criticism to control the child or to get the child to be how you want them to be, where there are boundary violations, where love feels conditional. So I will be loved if I do this. I will be loved if I perform in a particular way. So love is almost transactional. If you behave like this, then I will show you love. If you don't behave like this, I will withdraw my love from you. Where there is emotional unresponsiveness, where there's favorites. So, a certain child or certain children are seen as like the golden child, where you feel like if you have needs, you feel shame for wanting something, shame for feeling something, right? And also making children feel that their worth, their value depends on fulfilling the parent's desires or what the parent wants. So all of these different things. So I say it's not one thing, it's a number of things where parents have narcissistic traits. And we can see how a child in a situation like that, because a child doesn't know who they are, and a child is dependent on parents and caregivers to understand themselves and to understand the world. And children want love from parents. They want to please parents. And so as a result, a child may develop like a false self. So I have to be this in order, and therefore, in a sense, lose touch with who they are. They don't even know who they are. So they do a lot of people pleasing to get love. So if I do X, Y, and Z, I will be loved. If I do, I won't be loved. So you can see how it's not about them. So self-awareness, where is that? It's awareness of others, not awareness of self. And then if a child grows up in an abusive and unpredictable environment, so I don't know when a quarrel, a horrible quarrel, I mean like loud or fight is going to break out in the home. It could happen anytime. I don't know when it's going to happen. Or I don't know if a parent is going to come home drunk and be abusive. So a very abusive and unpredictable environment. I might be going home to a peaceful evening, or I might be going home So even when I getting licks and I don't even know why I getting licks, you know, I did something and I probably did it 3 months ago and I'm now getting licks for it and I don't even know what I'm getting licks for. So that abusive and unpredictable environment, because children, this is very important, children need routine. Routine makes children feel safe. They know when things are happening, right? And this is how it normally happens. This is how Tuesdays go, this is how Wednesdays go, this is how Mondays go. Routine makes children feel safe and secure. So when there's abuse and unpredictable environments, and that's like persistent, that's how it is, children now, their brain get into that fight or flight or freeze state. So they always like hyper vigilant or alert, and it could go into that freeze state too, where there's a sort of a disassociation. So this is where you're mentally separating from overwhelming experiences. So the child, to protect the child from feeling the full emotional impact of the event, the child could kind of go into a state where this is happening somewhere and they disassociate, they disconnect themselves from what is going on. And this can actually become an automatic response when a person feels stressed, and so they detach themselves from their sense of self. So a loved one is talking to you about how your actions hurt him or her, and it's almost like you fade out. Sometimes you can even see it in the person's eyes, that the eyes seem to glaze over, and you feel like you're not getting through to them, like you're not hearing you, because they're hearing this painful thing about them, and they just go into that automatic response of dissociation, sorry. And sometimes they even say things like, I can't remember having that conversation, because they kind of faded out during that time. And we could see how this could cause a person to have issues with self-awareness, because I'm talking about how you're impacting me, and it's hard for them to hear that. And then where there are a lack of emotional role models. So if parents, if caregivers never demonstrated curiosity about their own inner world, you know, or express things in emotionally healthy ways, children lack that model, that blueprint to develop their own, what is called metacognition, which is your ability to reflect on your own thinking. So you think about your thinking, right? So reflecting on their own thoughts and their own feelings. So when I look at what parents can do, we'll be looking a bit at this. And finally, what could cause a person to not be self-aware as they should be is a dependence on external validation. And this is a lot of times where environments, they grew up in environments that rewarded only certain achievements or specific behaviors, rather than a child's inherent self-worth. So, you know, just being able to tell a child, not when they do something good or, you know, when they've accomplished something, but just letting them know you are worthy, you are priceless, because God made you priceless. All the money they will come by you, just like that. Not because they would have done something. So that they keep relying on the opinions of others for their self-worth. So I'm always looking out to see how others see me, how others perceive me. What am I good enough? And it stunts their own self-assessment, their own independent self-assessment. So it's hard for them to assess, am I truly good at something? Because let me hear what this person has to say. So these are some of the things that would impact us in terms of lacking self-awareness, these childhood experiences. So emotional neglect as children, invalidation of emotions, where parents have a lot of narcissistic traits, where there is abuse and unpredictability in a child's environment, where there's a lack of emotional role models, and where there is a dependence on external evaluation. Now, 7 warning signs. Number 7, sorry. Warning signs that you need to improve. Warning signs that you need to improve your self-awareness. The first one, well, I didn't number them, so I'll just be calling them out, where there is frequent relationship conflicts. So the similar conflicts across different relationships. Something is wrong there. So just assess. Having problems, not just here in terms of my family, but in work, with friends. Difficulty accepting criticism. So constructive criticism is always perceived as some kind of attack. And you could tell, okay, yes, the person said this, and a lack of empathy. You struggle to understand and appreciate others' feelings and perspectives. You misread social cues. So somebody said, but you didn't realize the person was feeling upset. You just continued. You just went on and on and on and on. And you didn't realize the person was getting upset. And you say, well, no, that is a sign that you lack self-awareness, because you don't seem to, or you miss body language, facial expression, shifts in tones, where somebody may be becoming uncomfortable about your interactions, or even bored with what you are saying, and needing to be right or in control. So you find it difficult to admit when you've done something wrong, or you tend to insist on your ways, always your way. I want it my way. That is an indication that you need to improve your self-awareness. Where your reflex action when something goes wrong, when something happens, is always to blame somebody or some situation. So you reach to work late, it's the traffic. It's not that you did not get up early, or when your alarm went off, you turn it off. No, it's the traffic. It's always, no, it's what you did. If you didn't say that, I wouldn't do this. So your reflex action is always to blame something external. It's never about you. You find that you're impulsive in your reactions, and you have emotional outbursts. And even when you look at it, you're not even sure what might be triggering you, and sometimes regretting. Of course, you're regretting what you have done, but it's like, I don't know why I behave like that. That is an indication that your self-awareness needs to improve. Because one of the aspects, remember when I looked at the 5 components of self-awareness, one of them is emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence is not only about knowing your emotions, but it's also about handling your emotions in a healthy way. You struggle to name your emotions. So a lot of times what you could say is angry or frustrated or upset. So you're always in that place of the secondary emotions, and not in that more vulnerable space of, I felt disappointed, I felt unsupported, I felt unheard. So you tend to stay in that secondary emotion place. So you can't pinpoint what exactly you're feeling, or sometimes even what would have caused that feeling. You repeat the same mistakes. So look at yourself. You find yourself in identical problematic situations repeatedly without recognizing the behavioral patterns that lead to these outcomes. look at yourself. You have an unrealistic self-assessment. Your perception of your strengths, your weaknesses, your abilities significantly different from what others see them as. And sometimes these things can show up in performance appraisals. So I remember talking to a client and he was sharing about a performance appraisal. So in me digging deeper and saying, okay, so what did they say was wrong? And in talking to him, he started to realize, wait, this sounds like something even my mom would say about me, and start to realize things in his thinking about his competence, about his ability to perform was different because he would have disregarded certain things, so he wasn't aware of how much these things were impacting situations. So sometimes even a performance appraisal, and it's not what you expected, ask for feedback, talk to persons close to you to get a sense of how they see you, so that you can know areas where I need to make changes, because it is quite possible that there is a need for greater self-awareness. Where we avoid self-reflection. So you actively avoid spending time alone with your thoughts or even engaging in introspection, right? You're using constant distractions. You're gaming, you're always working, you're always staying busy, and you don't actually spend any time thinking about your life, thinking about your internal state, thinking about your thinking, right? And reflecting on your life. If you don't do that, if you avoid self-reflection, your self-awareness wouldn't be where it should be. And you have a difficulty identifying your values, your goals. So you feel confused about who you are. You can feel confused about what you want or even your overall purpose. Self-awareness, you need to work on that. And finally, where there is a resistance to alternative viewpoints. So you feel threatened or uncomfortable when others challenge your opinion. And when you feel uncomfortable most times. And so if that is happening, there is a need for you to work on your self-awareness. So number 8, how to increase your self-awareness. How to increase your self-awareness. So the first step to greater self-awareness is to look at your past issues that you've had with people and be honest with yourself. Sometimes it's hard for us to think of ourselves, as messing up, as getting it wrong, even as hurting others. You don't like to feel that I've hurt others. So we don't allow ourselves to reflect on our actions. What did I do to prolong that argument? What did I do that would have caused this person to think or say this about me? And admitting that you have had a part in how people treat you is a hard concept to embrace at first. But we have a part in how people treat us, whether they treat us well or they don't. We have some part in that. And the following thoughts can act as a warning sign for your need, that there's a need for better self-awareness. So when you think in things like, what is wrong with them? What is wrong with them? They did this to me for no reason. Our friendship ended and I have no reason why. Or suddenly she's not talking to me. She must be moody, And of course I could share others, but what are you thinking when a relationship has gone sour? And sometimes what you're thinking could be an indication that I need to think about me and what have I done, right? When you think these thoughts, turn the focus back to yourself and see if there's something you did to push someone's buttons, to start an argument, or prolong a disagreement. If someone blows up at you and you feel, oh, this happened, this just what? It just come out of the blue. Take a moment to see if perhaps you were pushing them in some kind of way that, upsetting for a while. And before you suddenly say, I'm not standing for this anymore, take some time to reflect. What am I contributing to the pain in this relationship, to the conflict in this relationship? And when you do have an argument or disagreement, and I'm not talking about an argument with people shouting and carrying on, right? So it could have shouting in it because, yes, people can get very upset if they feel that they're talking to you and they're not heard. That feeling unheard could trigger an outburst, yes, right? So when you have an argument or disagreement, listen closely to what your friend, your child, your spouse is telling you. It can be really hard to hear negative things about our actions, but if a friend is hurt, you might have done something without even realizing it. So sometimes when people are upset, they have a disagreement or they have an argument, try. So even if you have to breathe, to just keep calm, to listen to what they are saying about your behaviors. Ask your friend or your spouse to share their frustration with you so you can learn and go into it with an open mind to truly hear and to learn. If your friend, or even more painfully, your spouse is done with you, then go back over the attitudes and behaviors you have had towards them to see if perhaps you were not as good as a friend or a spouse that you should have been. Self-awareness is important in our relationships. So something is happening, don't just look at it, it is just his fault, it's just her fault. What is my part in this? And listen when people have to share frustrations with us, right? Now, self-awareness, yes, it's important, but you also have to balance it. And this is a very important point that I'm making. The act of self-reflection should be to determine how your actions affect your friendships, how your actions affect your relationships, not to act as a martyr or to take the blame for everything. So we're not doing all this self-reflection, introspection to say, well, I'm to blame for everything. No, or to act as a martyr, right? Indeed, you're not always wrong. You are not always wrong. But understanding your role and acknowledging the things that you did wrong will help you to keep a healthy social life and healthy relationships. But it's not for you to take blame for everything. So don't be that person. And when we have a better understanding of ourselves, we are then empowered to make changes and to build on our areas of strengths, as well as identify our areas of weaknesses where we need to make improvements. So that first one is to look at past issues you've had with people and be honest with yourself and listen. Number 2, take a personality test, not the ones on Facebook. Take a personality test to help you to become more aware of how you show up in life. Number 3, agree with what God says about you and others. God says that you are priceless. He created you in his image and likeness, and he assigned worth to you. And that worth that he assigned to you is priceless. There's nothing you can do or not do that can change your worth. And God loves people, and he expects us to treat people lovingly. He commands us even to love our enemies, right? So we understand that when we make mistakes, we understand our flaws. They don't take away from our worth. We are not worth any less if we're getting things wrong. If somebody is seeing a flaw in us, we're not any less. So we can, if it's difficult for us, we could breathe and listen, right? We can listen. And this is a very, very important mindset to have, that my worth is based on the fact that I'm created in the image and likeness of God, and God gave me worth. And that worth cannot be affected by a human being or situations and circumstances. You know why? Because they didn't give it. So they're not big enough to take it away. Number 4, think and write about your family of origin. Your family of origin are the persons that you grew up with. So family of origin, it could be different. It could be aunties, uncles, grandparents. It could be parents. It could be older siblings. But who are the persons you grew up with and had a major impact in your life? That's your family of origin. So think and write about your family of origin and how your childhood experiences at that time impacted your thinking and behavior. So you want to think about your childhood, your adolescence, right? And how it impacted your behavior and how it might still be impacting you. So what mindsets from your childhood and adolescence that may have protected you back then, but they're no longer necessary now that you're an adult, and even more so now that you're in Christ and He is your defense, that you're still holding on to. So being defensive or not trusting anyone, quarreling a lot, unable to open up and share your true feelings, right? You can't accept compliments. You're unable to ask for help or to accept help. Even your attachment style, these things come from how you would have grown up, right? Your brain is wired a particular way. So some of us need counseling to identify and deal with the negative ways our childhood experience may have impacted us or are still impacting us as adults. So you're looking at that. Number 5, write down your thoughts and feelings on a daily basis. And this doesn't have to be long. So sometimes I say to clients, set a timer. You can set a timer 5 minutes. You're not writing for more than 5 minutes. And you just write about how the day was and how you felt. And once the timer goes off, you stop, right? So keep a journal. Go over it from time to time, and it will help you to identify and understand your emotions and thinking. And we have to remember, feelings that we don't acknowledge, they affect in our behavior in ways that are not healthy a lot of times and that we won't like. Number 6, allow God's word to show you where you fall short of what is expected of you. Right? So read and meditate on the word of God. Repent, ask for forgiveness, and ask God to change us in whatever areas that show up. Number 7, take time to reflect on your life. You know, we could become so busy and we could say, we have no time for this. But we need to take time to stop and reflect. Is this the person God wants me to be? How am I doing in fulfilling my various roles? My role as a parent, as a friend, as a spouse, as a daughter, a son, a worker, a neighbor, a disciple of Jesus, as salt and light to the world. How am I doing for you to fulfill the roles that you have, that you are in? Right? Number 8. Understand that you may not be able to determine how you feel, but you can determine how you think and act. Feelings are neither right nor wrong. What is right or wrong is how we think and how we behave. And it's very important to be able to identify our feelings, identify what is the source of it. So the whole naming it to tame it and identifying the source of it. This is very important, because if I can't identify feelings, I cannot manage them. That emotional intelligence that we need. Number 9, list your strengths. Try to remember too, if you can't list your strengths, remember genuine compliments of others. Number 10, use that to help you. Number 11, know and identify your core values. Very important. The things that make life meaningful, that matter to you, how you make decisions. Know what is your approach to life. How do I like to do life? Know the things that energize you, make you happy, and the things that drain you. Know your love language. Know your attachment style, and if you need help in these areas. So these are things that we need to do and to know if we have to grow in self-awareness. Number 9, how to help your children grow in self-awareness. As parents, talk about your own feelings. Say things like, I'm feeling upset and a bit disappointed in myself because I lost my glasses again, right? Or I need a moment to calm down. So children see, okay, parents have feelings. It's okay to have feelings. And even how you're expressing it using I statements so that children can know this is a good way to express feelings. I feel so and so. Reflect on mistakes. Show them, and this is allowed, show them that you will mess up or make mistakes by discussing what you would do differently next time. So it's my fault that I lost my glasses, and I need to start putting them in one place and one place only. So they're seeing this. Name feelings. Help children to identify their emotions with their words. I remember my daughter coming home from preschool, and she wasn't her normal bubbly self, and I said to her, I asked her what happened, and after she told me what happened, I gave her 2 words to identify what she may be feeling. And she said, yes, mommy, yes, I am feeling sad, and I am feeling, I can't remember what the other one is. And I mean, that opened a whole new world for her. And so that's important. You could use cards, you could use books, but help children to identify their emotions. Ask reflective questions. So what made you happy today? How did you feel when your team didn't win? So they know it's okay to have feelings, but you're also helping them to learn to identify and reflect. Encourage expressions. Support them to express their feelings through drawing, through music, through play, talking, not just words. So of course you want to give children spaces to write and stuff like that, as a journal, a book where they can write about the day, how they feel. Very important. Help them to consider other person's feelings. So they have something with another child or with a sibling, and you ask them, how do you feel Johnny would have felt when you did that? How you think Johnny felt? And help them to put themselves in the other person's shoes, their friend's shoes, their sibling's shoes, and help them, if they don't have the words, to get the words, what words they could use. So they're starting to see how their actions impact the feelings of others. I like stories also. Use stories. So you're reading a book with them, and you say, so how you feel Little Red Hen felt when Mr. Fox didn't want to help her to grow the wheat? And you're asking questions like this that helps them to think about how behaviors and feelings can be connected. Even also reading books where characters overcome challenges to help them to build a growth mindset and resilience. Narrate their actions. So I see you are pouting. Are you feeling upset or sad about what just happened? So you're seeing their body language, and you're using that. Okay, so I see that you just stamp your foot. Are you feeling, sad or frustrated that you lost that game? So you're helping them to put words to even what they're feeling in their bodies, what is happening in their bodies. Talk about strengths. Help them to recognize their talents and what helped them to succeed. So why I did good in that math test? Yes, mommy. because I worked hard, I studied. Yes. And how do you feel about that? Right? And let them journal, let them draw, provide journals for drawing and writing about their day. And finally, number 10, self-awareness is an ongoing process. And it's an ongoing process because you are dynamic. Yourself is dynamic. You're always growing and changing. So your understanding of yourself needs to evolve with you too. Remember, we have those 4 aspects of self. We have the open self, the blind self, the hidden self or closed self, and then we have the unknown selves. They are part of us that we're yet to know, right? So we're dynamic. We have new experiences, and every new situation or relationship or challenge offers fresh insight and tests our awareness, requiring adaptation. So with my daughter getting older and preparing for new things in life, I actually felt things that I've never felt before and expected to feel, right? And I've seen where even my own self-concept had to shift again, as my role as a mother is changing. And this leads to the next point, a shift in perspective. What you understand about yourself years ago or even a few years ago might not be accurate now because I'm getting more information about me as I interact with life and as I interact with people. So this requires ongoing reappraisal. So remember, because self-awareness is an ongoing process, we need reflection and introspection. We need regularly thinking about why we feel the way we feel, why we think this way, why we act the way we do, looking for patterns and triggers. We need to seek feedback. Don't stop asking friends and trusted people how they perceive you, right? To challenge your internal view of yourself, right? We need mindfulness, meaning paying attention in the present moment to our thoughts and feelings without judgment. We need emotional intelligence, recognizing our emotions and how they impact our behaviors and how they impact others. And we need to step outside our comfort zones at times, right? Facing our fears and new challenges. It can reveal blind spots about us and deepen aspects of our personality. So self-awareness, very critical, very, very important. And I saw a quote by Daniel Goleman, the author of Emotional Intelligence, and it said, if your emotional abilities are not in hand, if you don't have self-awareness, if you are not able to manage your distressing emotions, if you can't have empathy and have effective relationships, then no matter how smart you are not going to get very far. So I close with that.
On that note, I say thank you, Petreece. 10 things you should know, part 2, self-awareness. So guys, don't forget, you can check it out on FBN TV. That's on YouTube. You'll also find part 1 and Isaac the Promise on Facebook as well. Petreece, once again, I say thank you. When I cross over, I'm going to give them your details so they can check for you on your social media pages. All right, so God bless you. And until we meet again,
thank you.
Have a great one. God bless you. Bye-bye.
God bless. Bye-bye. Hi, I'm Petreece Cuffie, counselor and trainer, and one of my deepest desires is to see people experience the fulfillment and growth that comes through healthy relationships. We're wired for relationships, so tune in and join with me as I explore and discuss tools for healthy relationships every Monday, 12:15 p.m. on Isaac 98.1 FM.